Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mindful Samadhi. I am Dharma Samadhi, and we're reconvening from last week. Unfortunately, I didn't get time to do much video content at all and post because we were very busy last week with the Katina festival, which is a Buddhist ceremony. As you can see to my right, we have some lovely flowers that got offered, which is very nice. So it's very fragrant in here at the moment. But anyway, tonight we're going to do question and answers. These questions I have here are actually from a couple of weeks ago. I didn't actually get time to get to these questions. I have got a whole bunch of new questions as well come through, so thank you for that. But I will endeavour to get to those once I've done these older questions first. So I'll try and answer everybody's questions. So let's get straight into it, okay? The first one is, I have recently been watching some content on Buddhism, and I was hoping you could explain more thoroughly the Four Noble Truths the Buddha spoke of. Also, what did the Buddha mean when he says cessation? Very good question. Okay, so in order to answer that, we can't really get to the second part about cessation yet, but we will get to that. First, we need to understand what are the Four Noble Truths. So the first Noble Truth the Buddha spoke of is basically life is suffering. Now, it sounds a bit daunting, it sounds a bit negative, and it's not something most of us want to hear, is it? It's like, well, that doesn't sound very encouraging, does it? But it's a fact of life. If we like it or not, life is suffering. The good news is there is a way out of suffering. We'll get to that later. But first we need to understand what the Buddha actually meant at a deeper level when he spoke of what is suffering, okay? So suffering comes in many different forms throughout our lives. The first, probably the best way to explain this, I'd say, is to understand these four things the Buddha taught us, that we're all subject to as humans. Every single one of us is subject to these four things, if we want it to occur or not, okay? That is birth, aging, sickness, and death. Now, we're all subject to these four things, and inevitably they're going to happen to us eventually. Now, we might not all die of a sickness, but guaranteed through some stage of our life, we are going to get some form of sickness, be it a flu, a virus, a disease, common cold, something like this. This is a form of suffering, okay? But we'll start from the beginning, birth. So we're all subject to birth, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Now, this body that we've taken on, it was once upon a time when this body was just being born. Now, the person that was giving birth to these bodies of ours was generally having suffering. When a mother conceives a baby or a child, this generally is suffering. I'm a man, I obviously cannot speak for women, but I've got I can make a fair assumption that this is a form of suffering for the mother. Now, also for the baby is also getting suffering in the sense where, now in Buddhism, we believe in rebirth and we believe in reincarnation. Now, I'm not going to get too deep down this rabbit hole, but essentially we accumulate karma, and karma just means action. And we generally accumulate karma in our past lives, whatever they may have been. It could have been an animal, could have been in a ghost realm, could have been a human. We could have lived perhaps thousands of lifetimes, but whatever our previous life was, we gathered an accumulation of karma. Now, karma doesn't always mean a negative thing. Karma, again, it just means action, okay? That's what the word specifically means. Okay, so when we're born, we generally bring with us some form of karma. It could be good, it could be bad. If we're being reborn as a human, it's not all bad. Human rebirth is quite good, considering we could have been born in the animal realm or a different realm, a different plane of existence, but we were born as humans. Now, the karma that we bring generally is what we call, or we refer to in Buddhism as chitta. Now, chitta is a very complex topic in Buddhism. Generally, we have two different kinds of minds that we have and we bring with us. So we have one called chitta and the other one is called manasikara in Pali. Now, these terms, if we would translate them into English as best as we could, they differentiate from which Buddhist person or which Buddha monk you speak to, but what I've gathered information-wise is chitta is the emotional mind, okay? And manasikara is the thinking mind. Now, when it comes to the emotional mind, when you're a baby and when you're born, you're bringing the emotional mind with you, because the manasikara, or the thinking mind, generally doesn't start to get a hold of us until we get to a bit of an older age of maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, depending on the individual. But let's not get into that subject, because that's not what the question is about. But we do bring the chitta mind with us. So when you see a baby crying and screaming and pointing at things because they want something, or they want, to touch a toy and shake a toy, or if they want their bottle, breast milk or whatever it is, or if they're hungry or they're tired or they're sleepy, and the list goes on, you'll see this baby is highly emotional because they're crying and they're screaming and all these different emotions. This is what we call the chitta. As a baby, this is the chitta mind. So babies are enduring suffering. Okay, so the birth aspect of it is suffering, not just for the baby but also for the mother. Okay, once the baby's born, of course we celebrate the birth, and it's a celebration day, and it's very good. We have baby showers and etc., etc., and etc. Now, the second part is after the birth, we have the aging process. Now, I'm sure most of you might be able to recall when you're getting older and you turn into a teenager, you go through various phases, and we go through teenage years, and we have these chemicals that called testosterone and serotonin and estrogen, and dopamine, and we have all these different things, these chemicals, which occur in the mind, and they're quite prominent when we're in teenage years, because we're developing from a teenager into a young adult. So these things also create a lot of very, very high-strung, tense emotions. And these things will also create suffering, because when we start associating with other human beings, we start to create a persona, and we want to be like certain individuals. We start looking at things like fashion and trends and celebrities and musicians and artists, and these things start to take a hold of individuals, and we start to gel and combine different emotional concepts with these things, or constructs, and we tend to want to be like these people, and we want this earring, or we want these shoes, or we want to look like this person or this celebrity or that celebrity. We want this particular hairstyle because they look really cool, and again the list goes on. This will also create suffering, because you'll find that we don't get what we want, and sometimes this can upset us, or things might not come out the way that we've perceived them in our minds, and this also will create suffering. So the aging process as a teenager, from a baby or from a young boy or young girl, this can also create suffering. And as you turn into your young adult years, we also have different forms of suffering there as well. We start entering the workforce, we start understanding what it's like to pay bills and leave home, and we understand what it's like to have to do our own washing and cooking and cleaning, and start enduring the process of becoming an independent individual. And this can also create suffering in different levels, as we are all aware. So we also have midlife crises, as we like to refer or label them as. These can also, as we know, create problems. And then the next part is the aging part, where we start getting older, and then things start to not function correctly like they used to. Our body doesn't function the way it used to. It's not as agile as it was. We're not as, and we didn't have as much energy as we used to, or we can't endure or progress through tasks that we may have been able to do a lot more efficiently when we were younger. Things like our hair doesn't grow the way it used to, and it's starting to fall out. It's starting to discolor and go grey and go white. Our vision starts to fade and dissipate, and we might need some glasses, prescription glasses. Our hearing might start to fade, and we might need a hearing aid. As you can see, the list goes on and on. Our skin doesn't look as beautiful as it used to, and our cheekbones aren't as plump, and this and that. Our muscles aren't as strong as they used to be, and as I can go on for a long, long, long time. So this is the suffering of aging. And then, of course, we have, after aging, sickness. Sickness is a very common thing, and it happens to everybody. Now, like I said earlier, you might not die of sickness. Some people die of cancer, some people die of Parkinson's and all sorts of different tumours and all sorts of things. Obviously, we don't wish that upon anybody, but it's a thing that happens. Now, if we like it or not, through some stages of our life, no one can really avoid this. We will get some form of sickness. Now, that sickness can range from a common cold. That sickness could be also from a virus, something that, we could get food poisoning. We might have something that we've eaten that didn't agree with us, and then that makes us sick. We might, if we're young boys or young adults, we might drink too much, and of course, what's the outcome the next day? A hangover, and you're feeling sick, and you're not feeling very good. Again, there is many different analogies I can give you on sickness and the definition of sickness. We don't really need to go into it too much, but I'm just explaining these Four Noble Truths a little bit more in detail so you can understand. Now, the last one, number 4, is death. Okay, so birth, age, sickness, and death. So death, we might think about it and go, well, it's not really a form of suffering, Bhante, because once you're dead, you're not really feeling any suffering, are you? What you need to understand is your family and friends and people that care and love for you are enduring a tremendous amount of suffering. You would hopefully most of the time anyway. So this is something that is not a good thing to leave behind for your loved ones and people that cherish and care for you. But inevitably speaking, it is what happens. It is what happens when we get old and we die. People around us, they sorrow, they have lamentation. Lamentation basically means they start crying and not feeling good, feeling a very deep sense of loss, like they've lost something special in their life. And this is not generally a good feeling to have. This happens to a lot of families and a lot of friends, and you get, as you grow old or you get to know someone after a certain amount of time, you tend to get a form of attachment to these people because you have got to know them, they have good traits or they have common traits like yourself, and you have things in common, and then you gain a friendship or perhaps love, and you develop families, and again we can keep on going on this subject. So death is also a form of suffering. Now we need to look at that and go, well, what's creating this suffering if I'm dead and everyone, like, I'm not feeling the suffering because I'm dead? What we need to understand is these people around us are enduring suffering, but what is actually creating the suffering for these people? Now the funny thing is, it's another formula the Buddha came up with. So it's craving, attachments, and desires. So these three things is also another formula that causes suffering. So when Buddha said life is suffering, we now know 7 different things that I've just briefly spoke of that are very primary things that can cause suffering to the humans. So birth, age, sickness, and death, there's 4 of them. And greed, attachment, anger, cravings, delusions, there's so many of them. The Buddha speaks of 3 of them, which is greed, anger, and delusion. And there's many different things, to be honest. But let's just go back and have a look at these people that are suffering because somebody's passed away, a loved one. Now, this is generally, we create a form of attachment. So we get attached to these things. We get attached to people, we get attached to situations. But in this case, we get attached to someone. That someone gets old, they get sick, and then they die. Now, that person then has sorrow, lamentation, because they got attached. They got attached to this person, and some people like to think that these people will always be around and I'll love you forever, you're my everything, if it's a loved one. And these kinds of emotions are very, very strong, especially when we refer it to a loved one, like in a relationship status. These can be very, very strong emotions that people hold. But you will find in time, these do dissipate and life goes on, because the Buddha also taught us that everything in life is temporary. He referred to this as anicca. Now, anicca means impermanence. So everything is temporary. We're not bad people for forgetting somebody who's passed away. We're not terrible people for thinking like this. It's just the understanding of everything is impermanent and everything is changing. Okay, so when somebody passes away, we're upset because we're attached. We created some form of attachment to that person, and that made us sad and create these very strong emotions. So this is probably the best way I can explain as briefly as possible the 4 noble truths. And the first one of that is life is suffering. So I think I've covered life is suffering as the 4 noble truths as best as I could. So let's move on to the second part of what the Buddha spoke of. He said, life is suffering. And then secondly, the Buddha said, what is the origin of suffering? So the origin of suffering, or the root of suffering, is what we need to try and work out. So I've just pretty much explained that part as well when I was explaining about the death, and I went on to attachment, greed, anger, delusion, craving, desires, and things like this. This is what is the origin of suffering, amongst other things, but these are some of the primary reasons. Okay, we get attached to things. Now, it might just not be another human being, or it might not be a loved one. This can be many things. The humans, we love to get attached to things, and we love to hold on to things, and I can give you many examples. So, number one, we have all this latest technology coming out lately. One of the most popular ones, or the varieties, is the mobile phone or the smartphone. Now, this creates attachment. Now, we get the latest and greatest iPhone or Samsung or Huawei or whatever phone it may be, and then the next year, the company makes another new phone. Now, what do most of us want the next year? Not everybody, but what do most of us want? We want that new phone. So that phone we bought last year, more than likely there's not much wrong with it, if anything at all, but it doesn't matter. We want the new latest one. And why do we want the new latest one? It's because it's called human nature. It's what we do. And unfortunately, the world we live in loves to emphasize this attachment that we have with things, and they like to make it even more difficult by marketing, by media, by entertainment, means of entertainment, and different various sales patterns, and this comes into our subconscious, and then all of a sudden we see a sign as we're driving to work, and then the next day all of a sudden, I want to get this, or I want to get that. And this is another form of attachment. Okay, so we could be attached to the latest and greatest car, the latest and greatest phone. We could be attached to a human being, a loved one. We could be attached to some program or some movie that we watch, some sport team. As you can see, there's many different variations that I can give you. We won't delve into it because I have other questions here. But the origin of suffering, we need to work out what the root cause is. So we need to rip it out of the ground and pull it out. That is the most important part about the origin of suffering. So you can find the origin of suffering by working out things like greed, anger, delusion, aversion, attachment, cravings. All these things lead to suffering. So that is a good direction I can point you in if you want to understand. Suffering is many different forms of suffering. We create aversion with ourselves. Aversion means anger. Now we can get angry with ourselves. We can get angry internally. We can also get angry externally. Generally, the origin of anger stems from the inside, something that we bring on ourselves with our mind and the way we think. And unfortunately, this generally will leave the inside, and we will throw this out to the universe externally. And this creates more problems. So aversion is not good. Anger can lead to mental anger. It can lead to physical anger. It can lead to many different varying problems. So anger is also something which is very bad, and we do not want. This can lead to violence, many things. And then we also have greed. Greed is something that is very similar to attachment, actually. Greed is something that, we're not happy if we make, say, for example, we're working and we have a specific income or salary that we're making. Without long, we will get to a stage where that money won't be satisfactory, and we will want more money. And we will be greedy, and we will try and get more money. Or we will try and get something else that we want to go our way. That is a form of greed. Greed can be when there's many forms of greed. Greed can be when you're eating and you're overindulging in something and you're being greedy. You might be greedy by not sharing things and keeping something to yourself. This is also another form of greed. Greed can be in the sense of not telling somebody something that you're doing that might be enjoyable, or you might be deceiving somebody because you don't want them to have something that you have, or you want all of something and you don't want them to have anything. This is a form of greed. And then the third one, so that's greed, number one. Number two is aversion or anger. And number three is delusion. Now, we all, from time to time, can be quite delusional with things, certain topics and certain things in life. Delusion, I'm sure it's quite self-explanatory, but we can all be delusional at times. We might be delusional in thinking something that we were quite sure was the case, and it never turned out to be that way, and that's delusion. Delusion could be thinking, again, like a sports team, you know that this is gonna be a winner, this team is gonna win, and they don't win. You were delusional in thinking they were going to win. There's many forms of delusion as well. That's something, these three things we can sit down and we can observe and put some thought in and contemplate ourselves. And then you'll be able to get to the root cause of suffering, the origin of suffering. There's many different things. Generally, they are emotions that create suffering. So everything happens internally, but externally, we like to let things affect us, and then we bring it internally. And this is what creates the suffering. Okay, so whatever we do as humans, just understand that our mind creates all of these problems. The suffering, the aversion, the anxiety, the depression, the greed, the cravings, the attachments, the desires. All of these things can be stopped when we start to understand this mind of ours, and that is through meditation. There is other forms, but meditation is primarily one of the best ways to understand and get some insight in the nature of reality itself and the inner workings of our minds. Okay, so that is number 2. So number 1, we have life is suffering. Number 2, what is the origin of suffering? Now, this is the second part of the question I can now answer, which is also, what did the Buddha mean when he says cessation? Okay, so cessation, generally that word, it's not a common word. It's not something that we use every day. I certainly don't. It's not something I regularly hear nowadays, although I suppose I do because I'm reading a lot of Buddhist scriptures and a lot of suttas. So the word cessation is a bit more regularly used in the Buddha context. Cessation means to end something or to stop something. That's basically what it means. It's how can we bring an end to something, or how can we put a stop to something. Okay? Now in this case, what that something may be is suffering. So what is the cessation of suffering is the third noble truth. So what the Buddha is trying to say when he says the word or the term cessation, he's trying to say, what is the way to stop this suffering? What is the way to end this suffering? Okay? So hopefully that answers your question. You didn't leave a name, but hopefully that answers your question. Cessation basically means the way to end something or the way to stop something. So in this case, how can we end or stop suffering? Okay. Now the fourth one, this can be a little bit tricky, is basically, what is the way leading to the way of, what is the way leading to the cessation of suffering? So what this is basically saying is, how can we find the way to end or put a stop to this suffering that we are feeling? How can we stop or end this suffering? That is essentially what the fourth noble truth is, okay? What is the way leading to the cessation of suffering? Now, the beautiful thing that the Buddha has come up with is, thankfully, another thing that I like to call a Buddha formula. Now, Buddha has many, many, many formulas that I refer to as formulas. They're different things. But this formula is called the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, the Noble Eightfold Path is the way to end suffering, to put a stop to suffering. Okay? So, the Eightfold Path we can basically put into 3 categories. Although there's 8 of them, we can articulate them and we can put them into 3 separate categories. Now, the way we do that is, the first one we can basically put into a category called wisdom, or panya in Pali, but we call it wisdom. And the second one we can basically refer to as ethical conduct. So there's 3 or 4 of those that go into ethical conduct. And then the fourth one is moral discipline. Okay, so we have wisdom, ethical conduct, and moral discipline. These are the 3 categories I like to put the Eightfold Path into. So the next fundamental question that we're all asking is, what is the Eightfold Path? So the first category of wisdom we can refer to is right view and right intention. They're the first 2 I would put in the wisdom category. Okay, so right view and right intention. Now, I could go into detail with these, but this has been a long time. I'm just answering the first question. I have 2 more to go. So I don't want to go too much into detail, you can find the Eightfold Path if you Google it, or if you go onto YouTube and type what is the Eightfold Path, someone will give you a brief description. Or maybe in the next few weeks, if someone specifically asks me about the Eightfold Path, then I can also give you a more detailed answer, okay? But for now, I'm just explaining how we can understand and navigate our way through the Four Noble Truths is by going through the Eightfold Path, okay? So again, the first part is wisdom. That's the category, and that is right view and right intention, okay? Those two are the first two, and they go into the wisdom category. Now, the second category is ethical conduct, okay? So it's pretty self-explanatory. Ethics, we need to be ethical. So ethical conduct we can refer to as sila. In sila, these are basically precepts that we undertake. Precepts can be, generally Buddhist has 5 precepts for the majority of people. Those 5 precepts, they stem through all different religions and spirituality. They do vary depending on what faith you may have or which way your mindset's thinking. But in Buddhism, the first one, I'll just quickly run through these for you. The first one is do not kill any or harm any living being. That includes animals and creatures and humans and many things. The second one is do not steal, do not take which is not given to you. Obviously that's self-explanatory, don't try and steal things. Generally it's something we don't want to do, it's not a good thing. The third thing is if you have a partner, or if you have a wife or something, or a husband, girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever it may be, try and be faithful to them. Try and give them all your love, and don't try and commit adultery. So don't cheat on them, and don't also sleep with somebody else's partner or wife or husband. No cheating. That's the third one. To briefly summarize it, it can go into much more depth, but again, we're just briefly running over these things. Now, the fourth one is we want to have correct speech. Now, what I mean by that is we don't want to be telling lies. We don't want to tell people some incorrect things, and we want to speak nicely with loving kindness to people. So whenever we decide to open our mouth, make sure that we have something nice to say and something good and wholesome, okay? And finally, the fifth one is no drinks or drugs which lead to carelessness. Now, this one, this one is for mindfulness purposes. We don't want to affect our mindfulness and our thought process. So when you take alcohol, and when you take drugs, this can generally alter our states of mind and our states of being, okay? This is not a wholesome thing. This is a negative thing, and it's not something that we find appropriate or deem appropriate in Buddhism if we are to be following meditation and mindfulness and the path of the Buddha, okay? So that's ethical conduct. Now, what falls into ethical conduct category is right speech, right action, and then right livelihood. So again, you can have a look online and see what the Eightfold Path is and what people have to say about these things. If you'd like to write a specific question on the Eightfold Path, I can go into more depth. The last one is mental discipline. Now, mental discipline I put into a category of meditation. This is understanding mindfulness, and this is practical aspects of understanding meditation. So what falls in meditation is right effort. So making sure we have, in Pali we call this word virya. Virya basically means energy. Energy we can refer to as effort in some forms. So having effort, having some discipline. Right mindfulness. Right mindfulness, there's many ways to explain that quickly. A good way in Pali we say sati sampajanya. Sati means mindful or mindfulness. Sampajanya means clear comprehension. So mindfulness with clear comprehension. To sum that up really fast, I'm going a bit quicker as you can see, that is being in the present moment as much as possible, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, because the past has already gone and the future hasn't arrived yet. There's no point creating anxiety or any tension about worrying about the future. The most important thing for us human beings is always being in the present moment. That is all that matters. Okay, so that essentially is a very brief way of explaining right mindfulness. Now, the last one is right concentration. Now, we could label that as a word in Pali which we call samadhi. This is a very loose termed word. I did a video on this explaining samadhi. It doesn't really, in my book, refer to concentration as such. There's different words we could also use for that. But to sum it up quickly, right concentration is understanding, keeping the precepts and understanding sila at a deep level. Then we can have right mindfulness, and we can start doing our meditation practice and adhering to these things that the Buddhists spoke about. And then when we start practicing meditation, this will help us to evolve in our practice a lot more quicker. Okay, so that is the Eightfold Path. Again, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Again, 3 categories there separated into wisdom, ethical conduct, and moral discipline. Okay, so the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path is basically your answer to the Four Noble Truths. And I've now gone into very good detail for that. So hopefully that answers your question about the Four Noble Truths and the word cessation. Okay. The second question I have here. Hi Bhante, thank you for your guided meditation videos. I especially enjoy the body scanning and metta video. They come in handy after a stressful day at work. Thank you very much, and I'm sure they do. My question I have is about something I heard you speak about on one of your videos. You mentioned the word sila. Can I kindly ask for you what this means? Perfect. That actually goes in very well with the first question regarding a bit of the Eightfold Path. Okay, so sila in Pali means moral conduct. Means making sure that we have, loosely spoken, all our eggs in one basket in the English terminology. But sila means like moral discipline. Moral discipline is a set of precepts. In Buddhism, we call them precepts. Christianity, they have the 10 Commandments. All different religious backgrounds and different philosophical thoughts, thought processes, and different areas have certain ways to live this life to the best of our capabilities. And by doing that, we need to endure these precepts or these concepts to make our life a lot easier and a lot better, and to make sure that we live a wholesome and good life as a good person. So in Buddhism, touching again on the last, I'm pretty sure I spoke about this, sila, but we'll go through the 5 precepts again. There is lots of precepts for a novice monk, someone that's recently got ordained. They generally have 10 precepts, and for a high ordination or highly ordained monk, they have 227 precepts. For a nun, they even have more. I'm not sure the exact number. There's 240 or 50, I think 250 or 60 actually, something, precepts for a nun. Now for lay people or everyday people that are just wanting to understand Buddhism and class themselves as a Buddhist, or perhaps a lay person, we also refer to them as Dayakas, they have 5 precepts. Now, someone that's a Buddhist practitioner or a yogi means someone that's practicing meditation, or if you're born in a Buddhist country, for example, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Burma, and these kind of places, they also observe 8 precepts on a full moon. But in most cases, they follow 5 precepts. Now, those 5 precepts go under these categories. So the first precept that we need to understand is we do not want to kill or harm any living being. Now, when you look at that word, any living being, we need to look at this word and investigate what the Buddha really meant. So, did he mean don't hurt another person when he refers to the word being? Or does he actually mean something a bit more? My understanding of this is to be very mindful and aware that in this life, essentially, everything is made up of energy. Now, there is some things that we perceive with our senses, our eyes and our ears and our smell and taste and touch and our mind. We perceive things a certain way. Now, when it comes to not harming things, we might just think, don't hurt another person. I tend to disagree with that, and I think when the Lord Buddha says living beings, he means animals, he means insects, he means creatures, cockroaches, spiders, snakes. He refers to this as plants, trees, and anything with a form of consciousness. Now, I look at this a little bit deeper, and I even look at it. Anything with a form of energy, frequency, or vibration. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean those 3 things all have a form of consciousness, but things like trees and plants and all living animals and creatures, and human beings as well, all these things I class as do not hurt any living being. So what we need to do is we need to be very mindful with this first precept. This also falls, some of this, into the Eightfold Path, right intention. When you could be driving your car at night time with your headlamps on, and there's going to be many different various insects that are going to be flying into your headlights, and they will kill themselves. And you didn't intend to kill them, you're just driving your car from A to B. But essentially, what we've done is broken a precept to a certain extent. Not at a deep level, but we've killed things. Now, this precept is very difficult to uphold because we have to be super mindful when we're walking, because there's ants and there's insects and there's very microorganisms and lots of living things that we don't even see or perceive with our eyes, our eye faculty. So we have to be very careful with that one. But all we can do as humans is to be very mindful as possible and try and avoid killing things. So next time you see a cockroach running through the house, don't just automatically think, just kill it, because you might not like the look of it, or you might not like where it is or what situation it's in, or it might be in your house or in your bathroom. It might be a spider in the corner of the wall in the house. We need to be a bit more mindful and not just kill it and spray it with insect killer and pesticides and things like this. We need to start thinking a little bit more consciously and thinking, well, this animal actually hasn't done anything to me, and this animal is just trying to live like we are. It's just his means of living or consciousness is different than ours. So that insect or that cockroach or mosquito is just hungry, or it's just thirsty, or it's just trying to nourish itself. So a mosquito that might be perhaps biting you, you don't like that, and what the majority of people do? We squat it. Next time, just think about it and think, that mosquito's just trying to survive like everything and everybody else, okay? So just shoo it away. There's no point killing it, okay? This is bad karma. We do not want to kill flies, mosquitoes, and all these things. As we're quite unaware of this without spending some time studying and researching, but we need to be careful of karma, okay? Karma is very easy to accumulate in our lives, and a lot of the times we might not know. We might go fishing because we enjoy it as a sport. When I was a layperson, I too used to go fishing. And little was I aware, I was just having fun. I was a young boy with my father doing fishing, and I thought it was a beautiful thing and I enjoyed it. And when I got a fish on my line, I got a sense of adrenaline rush, and it felt like a great thing. And once I started understanding at a deeper level and researching Buddhism, I quickly realized that this is very contradictory of what I was doing, and this is a very negative thing that I was doing and a very hurtful thing. That poor fish did absolutely nothing wrong to me, but I was looking at it as a sport. Even though I've never eaten seafood, I shouldn't have been fishing and trying to harm things. So there's many examples we can go through with this. It's up to us as individuals to spend some time and some of our wisdom and knowledge and just observe this precept and see at a deeper level what the Buddha was talking about. Okay, so that's the first precept. Do not kill living beings. The second precept is do not steal, or we could also refer to it as do not take which is not given. Okay, so unless something is given to us or offered to us, then we don't take it. Now, this can heavily refer to a Buddhist monk or someone. Monks, we will not take anything unless it's offered to us. As a lay person or as a person living everyday lives, try not to steal. Don't go into shops and steal and do things like this. This is very bad, so don't do this, okay? Pretty self-explanatory, the second one. Now, the third one is basically what we could refer to as do not cheat or commit adultery. So what I mean by that is don't go sleeping with somebody else's partner. And if you are to have a partner, be it a wife or a husband, whatever it may be, boyfriend or girlfriend, make sure that you're faithful to them and you don't hurt them or harm them, creating any emotional harm by cheating on them, and be faithful. If you decide to have a partner, you need to be faithful and be by their side and care and have loving kindness towards that person. And do not cheat. Do not cheat and sleep with anybody else's partner. They are not yours. Okay, the fourth one we can get to is refrain from incorrect speech. Now, what I mean by that is a few different things. We generally, most commonly, will refer to that line, refrain from incorrect speech, as telling lies and being dishonest. Looking at it at a deeper level, I think the Buddha did not just only mean that. I think he also meant things like be an honest person, but also be kind, be loving, have wholesome, positive speech. Whatever you say when you open your mouth, make sure it's got good intention. Make sure it's kind. Make sure you're being nice and friendly, and generally speaking, whatever you say has good intention and is a wholesome thing. This will also get you out of a lot of trouble in life, so this is a very good and important precept, refraining from incorrect speech. And don't lie. Don't even tell a white lie. If you can avoid it, don't do it, because it's not benefiting anyone. At the time, we might think it might be benefiting us, but in the long run, this is also not good, because this connects to karma. Okay? And number 5 is, I mentioned this earlier, drinks and drugs which lead to carelessness. Now, drinks and drugs which lead to carelessness, we need to understand this, that we all have minds, and our minds, as some of you might be aware if you're yogis or if you're meditation practitioners, when you start doing meditation, you quickly realize how scattered and how fast our mind operates. We have many thousands of thoughts a day that get processed through our mind, and a lot of them are very unconscious thoughts. What I mean by that is we're not actually aware of a lot of thoughts that we're having. They're just running through and going out, running through, running out. I'll give you an example of this. When we wake up in the morning, if we're not practicing any meditation or mindfulness, we wake up and we check our phones, we may be turning our alarms off, and then straight away we're looking at social media And if we're not doing that, we're waking up and we're like, all right, I've got to get the kids ready to school. I've got to get the lunches packed. I've got to do this. I hope this has happened. I wonder if this has happened. Then I've got to go do this. I've got to run down here. And as you can see, these thoughts keep going and going and going. These thoughts create stress. They create panic. They create anxiety. They create depression. They create lots of different forms of suffering. So when we refer to not taking drinks and drugs which lead to carelessness, a lot of the time we're talking in a mindfulness perspective. What I mean by that is a meditative state. So when we're practicing meditation and we're practicing mindfulness or awareness or general attention, we need to understand that if we're taking drugs or if we're drinking alcohol, this will affect, if we like to admit it or not, this will affect us mentally. This could also affect us physically. It can affect our actions. It can affect our words. It can affect our body language, our movement, our motor neurons. This can affect many things. Our receptors in our mind, our brain can go to different parts of the body incorrectly. All these things can develop, and this creates a problem. So we don't want to be doing that. So drinking alcohol is not really recommended. Taking various drugs is also not recommended. However, if you are sick and the doctor has referred you to some particular medicine that may be needed to make you feel better, preferably natural medicine, things from plants is more ideal, the naturopath approach. But if you need prescription medication, then so be it. But recreational speaking, we don't want to be just delving into drinking and drugs. This is very bad. So I hope that has answered your question on sila. Sila we refer to in English as moral discipline. That is following a specific tool set that the Buddha's laid out for us to be good humans and to generate good karma opposed to bad karma. Okay? So, lucky last, we have one more question here. Hello, Bhante Samadhi. I want to feel better about myself. I have been feeling down because my partner told me I am selfish and don't do anything for anybody but myself. Apparently, I'm not kind and don't think about other people. I got told this when we were at the shopping centre, all because I pushed through someone in the shopping aisle. Any suggestions would be great. My partner is a very kind, loving person, and I want to make her happy. Okay. All right, so there's a couple of things with this question. Firstly, you need to ask yourself, do you want to make yourself happy by being a good person? Or are you plainly just wanting to make your partner happy and have her perceive that you're a nice-natured, good person? These are probably the most fundamental questions you need to ask yourself before we can delve into this question. But I'll just read it out again. I want to feel better about myself. I have been feeling down because my partner told me I am selfish and I don't do anything for anybody but myself. Apparently I'm not kind and don't think about other people. I got told this when we were at the shopping centre, all because I pushed through someone in the shopping aisle. Any suggestions would be great. My partner's a very kind, loving person. I want to make her happy. Okay, look, it's good that you want to make her happy. That's a step in the right direction. We could look at it that way. That's a good thing. So, becoming a good person and making yourself feel better about yourself. Now, there's a few different ways you can go about this. You can practice loving kindness. You don't have to practice meditation in the sense, loving kindness meditation. You can put some practical aspects into this. Now, In the situation you've explained to me, it was at a shopping centre because I pushed through someone in the shopping aisle. Okay, obviously that wasn't a good thing to do. Perhaps you were in a rush, hence why you did that. Regardless of the situation, it's not something that you should have done, and your partner's visually observed this, and she wasn't happy with you, and this made her upset. Now, being a good person, there's many ways to be a good person. And if you're feeling down about yourself and you don't, you're feeling quite negative and nothing seems to be going right and you can't make anybody happy, there is ways that you can do this, just natural acts of goodness. Now, I can give you some examples if you like. So, say if you're walking down the street and if you see somebody that needs some form of help, then stop and help them. This is what we call in Buddhism karuna. And karuna falls into another Buddhist formula, which we could categorize as the 4 Brahma Viharas or the 4 divine abidings. Now, these 4 things the first one is metta. Now, metta is loving kindness. That is showing loving kindness to yourself, showing loving kindness to people around you, family and loved ones, also showing loving kindness to strangers and neighbours, people you may not know so well, and generally showing loving kindness to all living beings that live on this earth and around us, living creatures, animals and everything. Having loving kindness towards everything is one very strong, very, very strong way to get yourself out of this negative thing that is happening in your life, okay? So you can practice loving kindness. The second part of it is called karuna, which I was referring to before. This is compassion. We refer to karuna as compassion in English. So having compassion. So next time you see somebody that's struggling, maybe it's a senior lady that's doing shopping and she's having trouble putting her shopping bags in the car. This is just an example. She's maybe having trouble because it's too heavy, or she can't lift, or she might have a bad hip or a bad back or something. Stop what you're doing and go and help that lady or that man, whoever it may be, and just help them. Now, in doing so, this will make you feel good because you've helped somebody that was needing help. Doing this is a very, very wholesome act. This is a very good, caring thing to do, not just for the person that's receiving your kindness, but also generally these people will reciprocate by saying, "Thank you very much. Why did you help me? That was very kind of you. I really needed that," or something. This is compassion. This is compassion to showing towards someone that may need help. This is a form of compassion. By you stopping to help that person, you're being a compassionate person because you can see that that person needs help, okay? That leads on to the next one of the 4 divine abidings or Brahma Viharas. So the third one we like to call altruistic joy. Another way we can look at that is sympathetic joy, okay? So that's sympathizing for other people that may need your help, or they might be feeling down or negative or about a situation, and you have sympathetic joy because you can see that person is suffering in some emotional sense, and you can go and you might be able to give them a hug or maybe give them a shoulder to cry on or something like this, or you can maybe turn the situation around from a negative situation that's got some sadness and sorrow involved. You may be able to make some happy gesture that may be able to turn that frown upside down and make that person or that individual happy. That is also a good thing to do. And that's also creating good karma, good wholesome karma for you. We don't like to look at it like a reward system for ourselves, but this naturally is an occurring thing that happens when you show loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy to these kind of people. The fourth one is called equanimity. Equanimity is just having a level mind. Just understanding the nature of everything is temporary, everything is impermanent, and it won't last forever. So understanding this, this will also help you be a good person, because life is quite short. It doesn't last forever. So being down and being negative and having people think that you're a no-gooder and this, these are all things that we don't need to be dealing with, and we can get up and we can turn our situation around very quickly by following these things I've just mentioned. So if your partner is a very nice and caring and loving person, then that is very good that you have that person in your life. That energy generally will carry on to you. So don't worry. I'm sure that you're a good person. Everyone has a very good heart somewhere. Okay, so when it comes to wanting to feel better about yourself, I suggest go help other people. If you see people in need, then go and give them a hand. If your partner's struggling or she's in a rush or something, you can use some intuition and maybe pack her some lunch or get her some flowers if she's had a hard day at work. These kinds of things will generate good energy, and this good energy will turn things around for you, okay? So that's probably what I can say about that. Generally, these kind of emotional problems, first thing we need to do as people is to look inwards. Don't look externally for the situation, because whatever's happening externally, it doesn't matter. It's what's happening in here that is all that matters. It's what's happening inside what matters. Okay? So your answer is inside. Don't dwell on it and don't think, I'm a bad person, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that. Do something about the situation by utilizing the 4 divine abidings I just mentioned. Okay? Yeah, I think that sums up that question. And that is all I have for these questions. There's only 3 of them, but I kind of went into those quite deeply. But that's good. I hopefully have helped some of you have a better understanding of some different facets of Buddhism as well. So that is all for this evening. I appreciate everyone for tuning in and listening, and I'm going to endeavour to do some more videos this week, and I have a sutta coming out, which is the evolution of the universe, the evolution of humans, which is called the Aganya Sutta. It's a very complex sutta. I've been doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I finally gathered enough information and done enough study that I think I can do this one. That sutta could probably be 2 to 3 hours long. So for those of you with a philosophical mind and want to understand the natures of what we're here for, why are we here, how did the universe evolve, and all these crazy fundamental questions, then you can tune in for that one. Tomorrow night I will do a guided meditation as well. Nothing in specific, we'll just be going through the modalities we've already gone through. But I'll do a guided meditation tomorrow evening. And I'm sure enough later during the week I'll do an unguided one as well, which will just be a silent one of just me meditating for an hour or so. And yes, so we'll have a few videos coming out, and I'll also put my short 1-minute YouTube shorts up as well, just for daily motivation for people, a bit of inspiration, some daily quotes and things. But yeah, that is all for this evening. Thank you very much for tuning in to my channel Mindful Samadhi. And until next time, Terawan Saranaya. Blessings from the Triple Gem. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.